All right. Hey, everyone. We are streaming live with Beeple Mike today. Super excited. Um,
Woo woo.
just want to make sure if you guys are seeing this on YouTube, hop in the chat. Let us know you're here. I already see a few of you waiting. Super excited for this stream. So many people were DMing me about it already. They were like, "No fucking way!" And everyone knows that they can ask questions live in the chat as well. So it'll be exciting to get the community involved in this one. But thank you for coming on today. I'm super
Yeah,
excited to
thanks
have
for
you.
having me.
Yeah.
Definitely like super
Oops, you're breaking up just a little bit.
honored to be here.
Okay, sweet. Sorry, you broke up just a little bit, but I heard the end
Oh,
of that.
yeah, I'm just excited to be here and it's definitely like super fun to have be learning about this community and be able to you know, chat. I'm super excited about it too.
Thank you. Yes, awesome. I see everyone already hopping into the chat. Thanks, guys. People God. uh, Awesome. So I would love to just start this off. Like, I want to get into so much. I mean, you are a legend when it comes to everything that you do in the digital art scene, motion graphics, like everything. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of stuff that you can get done. And I want to also talk about how you discovered NFTs and crypto art and what you think about this insanity. But first, just to like enter into this slowly, I would love to just hear where the name Beeple comes from.
Sure, Beeple, I can show you actually is this thing. It's this. It is a toy from the like 80s, and if you see the thing there, it's like a little. This one doesn't have batteries in it, but it like giggles and like lights up. Um, Again, this was something that I named myself, like 20 years ago or whatever, and you can get those on eBay for like 15 bucks. They're not anything special. Um, but yeah, again, this was like almost 20 years ago, so
And
I
why
feel
that
like
toy? Like, why
I have
that
no
toy?
idea. I
Oh,
don't know. It was like kind of like it was a toy we gave my grandma and then kind of got back. I mean, it wasn't even like a special like toy. Like I don't even know. It's the only thing I will say is it has like when you cover its eyes, it like lights or it like giggles and like makes some noise. And like back then, my work was a lot more like syncing, like very precisely syncing audio and video. Like that was almost all of my work.
mm,
Um, and so I think that sort of like sound and like light interplay, that was kind of like part of it, I guess. I don't know. Beyond that, I feel like it was just kind of like one of those things you do.
yeah, you
One of
just go
those
with
things.
it. It's funny,
Yeah.
like when like you come upon some name and then eventually, I mean, it just sticks, and then you have it for obviously 20 years and beyond,
Yeah.
and you're
I
known
mean,
by it.
I feel like I could have named myself something stupider, so I feel pretty lucky there that it seems like something that is something kind of. But yeah, it was a second ago.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably you can tell I didn't grow up in the 80s, but I didn't know that toy, so it's pretty cool.
No,
Pretty
it
cool to
wasn't
see.
even that popular in the 80s. That's why it's
Oh,
not
okay.
that like it's not that like expensive now. Like it's just like
Okay.
cheap, whatever. I feel like I've actually bought most of them because I was buying them and like giving them to people as like presents for a while.
Nice.
So I feel like most of the ones on eBay are ones that I had given to people and they're like, "What is this garbage?" and threw it back. And so I'm just buying them back from
That's pretty
people
cool.
who de-gifted them.
That's awesome. So I guess for the people who are viewing this channel, which I'm assuming is a ton of the people in the like NFT and crypto art space, and I'm sure they all know you, but just in case there are the few that don't, I would just love for you to tell us a little bit about how you got into doing this. I mean, I've watched a YouTube before where you talked a little bit about it, but you've been
Into doing like
creating.
digital art or during in this crypto
No,
specifically.
digital art. Let's start
Digital
there
art.
because you've been creating a piece of artwork every single day for over 13 years, which
Yep.
is nuts. Like, that is mind blowing to me within itself. So, I would just love to hear a little bit about, first of all, your interest in art and where that stemmed from, and then also Where at what point in your life did you decide to do this everyday sort of thing? And were you working professionally in art when you first started?
Sure. So I went to school for computer science and kind of like halfway through the CS degree realized I was spending all my time making like little digital art, little like, webcam videos. So I would make videos up with my webcam. And so all the videos I made could only be in like a 2 foot radius of how long the cord stretched on the webcam. But I was having a lot of fun and like making little like cool like art websites, and this is like 1999. This is very long ago. Uh, and so out of that, I like kind of just slogged through, finished the degree, and then got a job doing like web design and making my own like art stuff on the side. And this is, I'm from Wisconsin. This was living in Wisconsin. And so while I was working as a web designer, I just started doing all this stuff, doing on the side, started the everydays. I initially started with drawing. I saw this same everyday thing, not with 3D stuff, but with drawing. An animator out of the UK named Tom Judd had done a sketch a day for a year, and I saw that and I was like, oh, that's a great idea, and I wanted to get better at drawing. So the first year is actually sketches, and then after that year, I learned a ton. I still was fucking terrible at drawing, and I'm even worse now, but I had learned quite a lot, and so it was like, oh, I'd always wanted to learn like 3D, something with like 3D. And so I was like, oh, maybe I could do a render every day to teach myself 3D. And so that's how I started doing a render every day. And this is, pre-Facebook, pre-Instagram, whatever. So it was just like posting them on my website. Nobody would see them. I guarantee you that. And then, and then I just kept doing it. And so honestly, the reason I'm still doing it is the exact same reason that I started. There's tons of different things I feel like I desperately need to get better at, and I very, very badly want to be better at. And I see other people, and it's like, man, they are just like 1,000 times fucking better than me. I need to get way, way better. And so, that's why I'm doing it today. That's why I did it, 13 years ago. It is looking at it and being like, no, it's not really where I want it to be. So over that time, the focus has changed between, sort of what I'm interested in, what style of art. For a long time, it was very abstract and stuff like that. And now it's much more narrative and disgusting. And more narrative and more embarrassing are the main themes that I'm trying to focus on, and creepy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see
Wow.
that.
Okay, thanks. That's where you're just like, no, it's not creepy. You're not just like, yeah, it is pretty creepy now, bro. I don't know what to tell
In a
you.
good way though, because it's like it's
I don't know what to
creepy.
tell you. It is now creepy.
No, yeah, no, it's in a good way for sure. Um, that's awesome. So when you started doing these renders, I guess, were because now, I mean, you're using. Someone asked this actually in the comments. Are you hand modeling everything? Are you using some assets? You use stuff from Turbo Squid or stuff like that, right?
So when I started out doing the everydays with 3D, and I've always been doing Cinema 4D from the beginning. I kind of, before I got into it, it was sort of like, which is the easiest to learn. And I had read some things that seemed like Cinema 4D at the time was the easiest to learn.
Mm-hmm,
Now,
mm-hmm.
maybe that's Blender, I don't know. But I think, at the time that seemed like the best option. And so at that time, I knew no 3D, so I was modeling everything. And so when I hit the 10-year mark, it was sort of like, I don't want to model anything. I'm not really interested in learning to like model things anymore. I'm interested in like using models to tell a more narrative story. Like
Yeah,
if there's a tree or something like that, I just want a fucking tree. I don't
yeah,
want to make a tree from scratch. I just want a tree. So I think to me, it's like, what are you interested in learning about? If you're interested in learning about modeling and like that's what you want to do, please fucking do that, because I would love to use your models. Like,
yeah.
so I have a deal with Turbo Squid where I can just download anything I want for free. So that
That's awesome.
also helps a lot. I'm not gonna lie there. So yeah, so honestly, the workflow now to me feels like taking these like 3D toys and like fucking break them apart, breaking the heads off, breaking the whatever off, and jamming them together, and like you know, setting up a crazy scene and then, you know, kind of photographing it. That's what it feels like to me.
That's amazing. So when you're creating, I mean, I've dealing with some of that. I nothing on your level, but some of that stuff like rendering takes so long, especially when you're talking about animations. I just wonder if you can talk a little bit about your process when you're doing an everyday. Maybe like I don't know if there's a typical amount of time you try to spend on it, or maybe like your shortest versus your longest. But how do you plan in like the rendering time after you're creating everything?
Sure. So, it usually, I would say, you know, it varies a lot depending on what client work I have that day, or this or that, or how kind of strong I feel like the idea is. If it's like, okay, this is freaking terrible, I'm not going to spend that much time on this. But then I usually get sucked into those too and spend more time than I want, because it's like, this is terrible. I have to spend more time on this. This is embarrassing. But I would say, you know, 2 hours ish. And then, as far as like render time, and the other thing with that is I don't do like sketches or anything like that. Like I just go right into it. I usually have kind of like an idea in my head, like sort of like looking around the internet, looking at different pieces, looking at, you know, references and things like that. I'll usually kind of get some sort of idea in my head, and a lot of times that will change. But from there, I just go in and start building it. And in terms of the render time, I use Octane Render, which is a render for, you know, a bunch of the different ones. But and it's quite fast. And I also, you can use a bunch of video cards at once. So I've got like 3 computers with, you know, 10 video cards or so that are all rendering like at the same time. And because I'm just
Nice.
rendering a still, it's much faster.
Sure.
Like obviously, if you're rendering video, then you can take whatever that still is times, you know, 50, 60, whatever, for a 3 second, 2 second animation. But because I'm rendering just one picture, it's not that bad. It usually, the renders are, I kind of like set it up in the back, do it like a low quality render, then have it rendering in the background while I'm working on it in Photoshop, and then I'll bring that higher quality. So sometimes I'll let it sit for, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but I'm working that whole time.
Got it. Wow, you've become, I mean, obviously over 13 years, you become pretty efficient at all of these sort of things.
I feel
Um,
like I'm pretty good at like knowing the shortcuts that nobody's gonna notice, or what's
yeah.
the like absolute quickest way. Like sometimes I'll do these things live, and people will be like, "Oh, do this, sim out that cloth, sim out that." Dude, it's like, dude, what do you? We've got an hour to do this whole thing. Just that one simulation alone could take me like 45 minutes to set up and then get how I'm looking. Or I could just draw the thing in fucking Photoshop in 2 seconds. You know what I mean? So I
That's
think
awesome.
it's about trying to figure out what is like, not like what is the right way or what is the way that, you know, people are sort of like, you know, used to doing this, but what is the absolute quickest way that, like, you know, nobody's gonna notice the fucking difference.
Yeah. And I think the really, I mean, one of the really cool things looking at some of your everydays, it's it's almost like a weird, I mean, this sounds kind of weird to say, but it's almost like a journal of your everyday life because I mean,
Yeah.
you know the everydays that you make when your kids are born or when
Yep.
you or when you're happy, you're sad, you're whatever, you're sick,
Yep.
you're all these things like you put that into your everydays, which I also think
100%.
is so cool. It's not like, oh, I know I'm going to be really busy today. Let me just pump out something like random and short. You might still be pumping out something short, but you're pumping out something relative to what's going on in your life, which I think is pretty unique.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest questions people ask is, do you do them every day or do you like bank them up? No, every single one is done on that day and posted somewhere by midnight. And yeah, it
Wow.
very much is like a journal. I did the first like gallery show last year, and we had like a 40-foot by like 10 foot of all of the first pictures from the first 12 years. So they were all
Wow.
like, you know, every single picture, like 4,000 pictures from the first 12 years. And when my wife came in, she just like immediately like started crying, because it was like that was like our whole like, you
Yeah.
know, like life over the last like 12 years together. So it's like, you know, there's the pictures from the kids, and there's the pictures of, you know, all different things. There's, you know, tons of drawings of her in there. There's just like
The
tons
day
and
you
tons of photos.
proposed to her, I saw
Yep,
that
the
one.
day, all those things. And like I
So cool.
usually when I do like talks and stuff, I kind of like highlight these pictures. Like, oh, here's the picture I did, an hour before we went to the hospital to have our first kid, and here's the blah blah blah. So yeah, I've got all those pictures, and like, I remember those, and it very much is like a journal.
That's so crazy to think about, especially like when you see them all at once and
Yeah, it was very
yeah.
cool. What was cool about it too is you could stand way back and it was this grid, but it was also like with the way we had printed it, it was still like 300 dots per inch. So you could get
Wow.
super close, and some of the pictures were only like this big. So you could stand this massive thing way back, but then you could also get really close and see like tiny details on like the individual pictures. So when
That's so
COVID's
amazing.
over, we'll have some more real shows here, and we'll.
Yeah, that would be epic. I would love to come see that. So how what do you I this is sort of a random question, but what do your kids think about what you do? Are they interested in this sort of thing?
Um, yes and no. They're only 4 and 7, so they're
Okay.
pretty young. So they don't really get it. I mean, they were at the show and they like kind of understood, but as soon as as soon as they saw the thing, bring them in to like see the thing. It's like, oh, here it is. My daughter's like, is this it? The whole
That's
thing, and it's
awesome.
like,
That's so
what the
cool.
fuck? God
Kids
damn
are
you.
very honest. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
She's
just
like,
like, so
"This
this
is
is
what you
the
got me
whole
out of
thing.
bed for?"
Okay, so this is what you dragged me to fucking Toronto for. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so it's they get it. But my daughter, actually, we've had her doing everyday. So since she turned 5, so
Oh, no
she's
way.
actually got 2 years of everydays done now too.
Holy
And she's done
crap.
it every single day. She takes it, does it in Procreate, and draws something, and it's just like, I'm gonna do your picture, and she'll just go like spend 15 minutes, whatever, just draw something fun, whatever she wants that day,
Holy
and
crap.
so she's got 2 years down now too.
She's gonna set a record for
She
by the
might.
time
We'll
she's
see.
whatever age of how many everydays that she's done in her lifetime. That's insane.
It'll be interesting though, because it's like we're not gonna like make her like I'm not
Right.
gonna once she gets old enough to decide
Yeah.
whether like and make a decision not based on just like I don't want to. Like
Right.
okay, like just like she's in piano and it's like, well, you're not really gonna decide whether you want to do piano. We're
Yeah.
gonna see this through for a sec.
Yeah.
Um, but once she gets older, it's like, okay, if you really don't have any fucking interest in this, like
Right.
I'm not gonna make her do it, obviously, or whatever. But it'll be fun now, and I think she'll like looking back at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love to know, I guess, how you got interest or introduced to non-fungible tokens and sort of the crypto scene.
Sure, sure. So like I had bought some Ethereum way back in like 2017 and kind of like, sort of knew about crypto to a very surface level. Um, and hadn't really paid any attention to it in years. And then a couple months ago, people started messaging me and be like, "Oh, you gotta check out this like NFT thing. You gotta check out this NFT." And I looked at it and I didn't honestly recognize any of the people. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was sort of like, "Oh, this is cool. It's a
Scammy.
cool idea." Well, I will say I didn't think crypto was a scam per se.
That's all right. A
But
lot of people do. Yeah.
I will say I did. I come from, and I'm actually very interested in like investing, but I'm interested in much more like stocks and like pretty like low volatility, low sort of like,
The
compared
boring stuff,
to
right?
boring stuff. Um, and so, I wasn't super up in like crypto and that. And so it's not that I thought it was a scam. It's just I didn't think there was as much interest. And then I looked again like 3 weeks ago, like literally 3 weeks ago. And and then it was like, oh wait, I know all these people. Like I looked on Super Rare and it was like, okay, all the top selling artists on here, I know these people. And
Yeah.
so it was like immediately like texted Pac and it was like, dude, what the fuck is going on here? Like this is going a bit ape shit. What are you doing here? What is this? And so we chatted for a long time, and then I just kind of from there like went freaking,
Ape shit.
pretty deep on it, and just kind of like immediately started reaching out to anybody who would talk to me and just being like, what are your thoughts on this space? What's going on? So since then I've talked to, Super Rare guys, Nifty guys, Maker's Place, Somnium Space, the meme dude, freaking Mantra Dow, Flamingo Dow, Rareable guy this morning. Like I've talked to a lot of, quite a few people in the space.
Yeah.
Just to try and understand, and collectors, and then also, other artists in the space too, Coldy and X Copy and a bunch of different people too, to just kind of like try and understand like their thoughts, what they find interesting, and just like what's been done, what hasn't been done, and try and see like what possibilities are. Because to me that's the interesting part about this, is it still feels very, very like new and young. And it feels like this thing that like everybody else in the art world will like eventually know about, but right now they don't know about it. So that's kind of like fun too, that it's like you get to kind of like tell people about it. So yeah, it's just been, everybody's been super nice, super like very welcoming. So that's been nice too. Like it seems like just like a fun community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would love to know how you balance sort of like you're still doing everydays and then you also are doing these pieces, like for example your Nifty Gateway drops. You're not, if you don't finish that, if you finished that piece in a day, would you count that as an everyday? Or are those just completely separate?
Well, the first off, the everydays are only, they have very kind of like specific rules for each sort of like year.
Okay.
That I'm kind of like, okay, what am I focusing on this year? And they're pretty vague, but this year it's sort of like a picture with Cinema 4D, but it has to be a picture. And the other thing with those videos are, I kind of worked on them over like the course of like a couple days. So it's sort of like anything like that, any sort of animations, that's 100% separate from the everydays. The everydays is one picture, just a picture that day, start to finish. So it's quite separate from any of the other like either VJ clips or short films or other weird little milking things.
Okay. Andrew asked, what was Beeple's reaction to his sale on Nifty Gateway?
It was it was definitely pretty interesting. Like I did not expect that. I was definitely expecting, like especially with like those 100, the
$1.
So the other thing I did was I did an edition of 100 for $1, and I knew they would obviously like be worth more than $1. But I would thought they would be worth like somewhere between $10 and $100. I didn't think they would immediately be like $1,000. Like that, I definitely did not think. And so it was just like, and I also didn't think they would sell out that fast. Like they were like, oh, they'll sell out immediately.
Oh yeah.
And so when they said immediately, I thought they meant like within like 5 minutes. Immediately.
No, second.
I didn't think they meant like literally like within like 1 second.
Yeah.
And so like my parents and my brother were like, they're at their houses, all registered, sitting there, and we're all on like a group call, waiting for the thing to like, count down. And they're like, hit refresh, and they're trying to get one. Neither of them got one.
Oh yeah, I couldn't get one either. I was bummed.
It's like, wow, what the fuck?
I mean, I will say this might be the only chance that I get to tell you I told you so, because I told you that before you launch, I was like, dude, you're gonna like, this is gonna set records, like this is like it's gonna be gone in a second. So I'm happy that I get to say once to Mike Beeple that I told you so.
That's true. You did tell me. Yeah, it was definitely so fun, and like I was just so thankful to see the like support. It was just like so like just crazy to see. So it was just super fun and like such a great thing. And it's so, to me, it's a very fun way of like structuring, like there's so many different aspects to it, and it's very fun. Like you're kind of like setting up these conditions with the like because there's so many different ways you can release things. And that's not something I'm used to either. Like, you can have an auction, or you can just release it and set a reserve price, or you can say this is an edition of 10, or you can say this is an edition of 100. You can set a price, or you can set no price. So, and then it gets into like fucking sharding tokens and all kinds of like crazy shit from there. But there's so many different ways to like release stuff, and they have different implications. And just sort of like, also, I never really thought about like, okay, if people are like collecting them, what can I do to like, entice people to collect them, but to collect my work. But then also, like, I want to preserve the people who've already collected it. Like, I want to make sure their stuff actually goes up in value, like, to make it, more valuable for people to collect like new work. So it's like, it's one of these, like, there's a lot of like trade-offs and things that I've never thought about before, because normally it was just like, I make something, I put it out, whatever. I'm not in any way thinking about somebody sort of like collecting it or investing, real money in it, and sort of thinking of myself as like a little kind of company, or, sort of like stock myself, where it's sort of like, if I put out too much stock, then obviously it becomes diluted and like, undervalued. But if I put out absolutely nothing, well then, I mean, there's nothing to like collect. So it's finding that, sort of balance, which I think has been interesting too.
That's amazing to hear you talk about that and have that dialogue with yourself, because that is one of the most important balances, in my opinion, for collectors, for creators, just finding that sweet spot that works for both of you and makes sense for the work itself. So that's
100%.
awesome.
I mean, that's the thing. When somebody collects my work, it's sort of like we're very much aligned then. Like, I want their work to go up in value too, like 100%. I don't want them to like get fucked over. Like, I very much want their work to go up. So that's something I'm very sort of like cognizant now of, like, what can I do that will make this work continue to go up and make it seem like, wow, you should have bought that thing. That guy was very smart. He knew to buy that thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want it to fucking be. So it's definitely a different mindset. But I feel like it's also like, it hasn't stopped me from like putting out the work that I want to do. Like, that's what I think is also interesting about it too, is because of the whole tokenizing thing. It's like, I'm going to continue to put out whatever the fuck I want, but it's just like the tokenizing thing. It's like, that's the part that's like, here's all the work, but then this is the part that's tokenized, which is very separate. Like, those are a very like sort of like conscious decision. So I feel like it's kind of almost the best of both worlds of like, I'm just going to say and put out whatever the fuck I want, but then I can also very much control what's tokenized, and this is the part you can own and collect.
That's great to hear from you, especially, I mean, you are like the content king, and to know that you are, really selecting the pieces that you're tokenizing intentionally, and have this sort of greater plan and greater vision is amazing to hear for collectors, because they know
I think you have to do that, especially if you were putting out the amount, like if you are somebody who's doing everydays or something like that. Like, I think it definitely, or honestly anybody from now on, because I can tell you there's a million people coming into this space in the next 3 to 6 months. There are a bazillion people. Everybody's like, wait, what? Wait, so they're just gonna pay you for the stuff you've been doing, like, just like I was. It was just like, wait, so I can just sell this shit I've been giving away for free? Okay, let's do that. So like, there's going to be a shit ton of people. So I think people being more conscious and people being more sort of like, I'm just going to tokenize everything. Like, I don't think like that's gonna, I think that's going to get old very quick. And the people are going to like want to see if I'm spending money. And before, you didn't have that many choices. So it's like, well, here's the money I have. Here's how many choices I have. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'll take this one. There's only 6 choices. Now there's going to be 6,000 choices.
Right.
So, I think to cut above that noise, I think people are going to need to be very mindful of what they're doing. to not sort of, screw themselves, honestly, because it's sort of like that's the thing. I think people are also maybe a little too worried about what everybody else is doing. It's like if somebody else floods the market with a bunch of garbage, that doesn't fucking affect me. Go for it. You can flood the market with all kinds of fucking whatever garbage you want. I don't give a shit. It doesn't make me any. That's not gonna hurt me.
Right.
So I feel like kind of focusing on your own thing too. I feel like is important.
Absolutely. We had a few questions come in the chat. So Death himself asked, have any bigger projects coming from any of your? Oh, have any bigger projects come from your everydays?
I mean, biggest. They approached me in 2018 to like license a bunch of the pictures for their like spring women's line ready to wear collection.
And sorry, the company name cut out. Who did?
Louis Vuitton.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty one. It cut out for me. I don't know about you guys, but that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah. So that was definitely like super, super fucking crazy. Like, especially the way it all went down. Like, they emailed me and they're like, "Oh, we're thinking about using some of these pictures for the women's line," and it was just like, I don't know who the fuck I'm talking to at the company. In my mind, I'm talking to some fucking idiot intern who's like, let's use some Beeple pictures, and it's just kind of like, okay, guy, once the real creative director comes in, he's going to look at the design and be like, yeah, we're not using that, you fucking idiot. What are you doing? This is, And so they just had me make these slight modifications of the pictures and then just give them to them. They're like, "Yep, we're gonna use them," and it's just like, "Okay, we'll see. We'll see if you use them."
That's so
And
sick.
so I ended up. It just kind of happened. They're like, "Oh no, we're using them." So I ended up, through a weird long story, we were actually in Paris for the fucking opening at the Louvre. And so even that night, it was just like, oh man, there's at least a 50% chance they don't use anything. And so we're sitting there, and the first person comes out, and they've got the fucking picture right on the shirt, and it was like, oh,
that's
like fucking
crazy.
freaking the fuck out, and it's just like, they used it, they used it.
Oh
And
my
the next
God.
person comes out, same. Next person, same. Next. It's like, oh my God, they used everything. What the fuck? There was 10 or 12 people who had the things on it. And so it was just like, it's like, how the fuck are you going to use this on women's clothes? It's like, oh yeah, you're just going to put it as a fucking giant square right on the middle.
That's amazing,
I would have
dude.
expected. Yeah, so it was just
That's
craziest
so
fucking thing. That's got to be by far the most just fucking bizarre thing. And a lot of people afterwards like, oh, you think this is gonna change things? It's like, no, not really. I don't.
And did it?
Super random. I mean, not really.
Okay.
That's the thing. It feels so random. I didn't think this was oh, now suddenly this stuff's gonna be popular for women's clothes. A bunch of robot shit, because it's robots and shit too.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I feel like that was kind of a weird one-off thing. I mean, it definitely, it helped having that, project, and other high-profile things came, but it wasn't Gucci was also lined up to be like, okay, now do us.
Yeah. Dude, you never know. Who knows?
I don't know.
We'll see. What year was that? Do you remember?
That was last year.
Okay.
The line came out, and then since then we did a window thing for their flagship stores, a big video window thing, and then they also used some of the videos in this was a prototype, they never sold it, but they put a bended screen with some of the videos on a purse, so they made
cool.
I think one of their shows. Yeah, that was pretty sweet too. But yeah, just very, very weird and bizarre.
I will say they're on top of their shit when it comes to keeping up with the times, I guess, and the tech.
It's very interesting because they are, and I didn't know anything about any of this shit. Honestly, when they contacted me, I thought Louis Vuitton was somebody that was still alive. And it's like, oh, okay, no, this is a company that's been around 200 years
Oh,
and he died.
God. Yeah.
That's how little I knew about fashion. Like this,
Okay.
like I'm wearing garbage clothes. This is like a $5 shirt. Like everything I have is just garbage. Like put it on, whatever. I know nothing about fashion. So, but learning more about their company, it's super interesting because it's like it's this mix of like the most forward thinking, like fucking crazy, like boundary pushing design, but then it's also like, oh, here's a trunk that we have from like 1904.
Yeah.
And it's literally the exact same brown pattern as now. So it's these like nods to the like extreme past while also like pushing the boundaries of the like, what the fuck, like super weird, like, you know, just very odd, you know, forward thinking like design choices. It's that weird mix of those two that I think has been, you know, so made them so successful is
absolutely
being able to like take the past and merge it with like the future very well.
Yeah, that's pretty epic. Thank you for sharing that story. Good question, Death himself. Blue Woods asked, "Is Beeple working on any more short films?"
Kind of.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it a short film though. It's a longer thing that's short still. I don't know. It's just it's not 10 seconds, but it's also I wouldn't necessarily call it a short film. I'm still not that interested in short films that much anymore. Like I used to be like really like, you know, I feel like Vimeo was when that was like, you know, everybody was going on there. I feel like 10 years ago short films were very interesting, and now it's like it's 2 minutes.
Have you seen Love, Death, Robots?
Minutes. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm going to have to find a time in my week for that.
No, people would watch a whole 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever of yours, I'm sure. But have you seen like Love, Death, Robots? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I thought that was freaking sweet.
If you like, if you made an episode and did that show second season, that'd be pretty insane. Just saying, putting it out there for that show to reach out to you.
No, that show is super dope. And I like them. I feel like that, like if I'm sitting on the couch, it's like a different mindset. I don't know. I just haven't been like, I've been interested in more just like short, especially for me too, like me like to do as well. Like I feel like I'm just more interested in short like 10-second things where I can be much more experimental because I don't have a ton of time like invested in them versus when you have a short film like you've invested, you know, months, years, whatever. I feel like you're less likely to take chances because you're so invested already. Like, nah, I don't want to fuck up that one scene if I put this weird thing in and it doesn't. Versus if something's only 10 seconds, like whatever. I'm just gonna try this thing. People like it, people won't, whatever. I'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Andrew Steinwald asks, "What NFT platform will you drop art on next?" He's trying to get in on it early.
So the next one is on Nifty again.
Nice.
And it is going to be December 11th. And
Sweet.
So it will be, definitely excited to be working with those guys again. They were, you know, awesome to work with on the first one. So I'm definitely excited for this next one.
And isn't it crazy and awesome? Like you were talking about those pieces earlier with the 100 that sold for $1. I'm sure like the first sale that happened, you probably made in royalties more than you made from the initial sale of that whole series, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, the royalties were set to 10%, so it was like, you know, somebody sold it for, you know, one of them sold for fucking $6,000. Like that guy got to keep, you know, $5,400 or whatever.
Of course.
But yeah, I think that was cool too because it was like, you know, I knew other people who had just spent $1 and then flipped this thing like 3 hours later for like fucking $5,000, got to keep $5,000 that night. And so it was like, oh man, those people are having a fucking good night too. So it was like, that was super fun too. Like knowing that it was like, a bunch of people like were having a good night. So it was you know, it was super fun all around.
For sure. Um, oh, Radio Shanghai asked, "What's your favorite rap punchline?" It's an interesting
Favorite
question.
rap punchline?
Yeah, I guess if you have one.
I don't even know what that is. Like what do you mean like punchline? I
I
don't.
don't know, like I guess your favorite like verse or phrase from a rap song. I don't know. I figured maybe you know more of what they meant than I did.
Maybe you know what they meant. No, I do not know what they
Okay, okay, fair.
meant. Sorry.
Let me see if there's any cool. Do you see stuff? I've okay. Oh, who are your artistic inspirations? Jay Higgins asked.
I mean, to be honest, there's quite a few. Uh, I feel like it changes a lot too. Like the things that I was interested in, like art wise, like, you know, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, or whatever, like that's none of the same art like that I'm interested in now.
Mm.
So I feel like it honestly changes quite a bit. I will say I was very much like early days inspired by like Aphex Twin, which was like a sort of like weird electronic musician out of the UK. And just like this is, you know, mid 90s, like seeing like, you know, him in his basement with like a computer making all this stuff, which now we, you know, obviously completely take for granted that one person could write a whole album, you know, by themselves. But in the mid 90s, that was like not the case. So it was, you know, to me, that was like, whoa, this one dude with a computer is making all this crazy shit. Like, that was super inspiring to me. Like, man, it's really interesting. Like, you know, I have a computer. Like, what could I just do alone? I feel like there's kind of like almost like a punk sort of ethos to it, like a do it yourself sort of thing where it's kind of like, it to me, it seems very freeing and interesting to be able to just do this completely by myself with a computer. I don't need anybody's permission. I don't need to like work with anybody. It's literally just like, what can I do with this computer?
Yeah. No, that's great. Another question that came in. What are oh, here's a quick one. Any recommendations on plugins or scripts for Cinema 4D that were a game changer in your workflow?
Um, Honestly, I mean, I guess it's not super huge news, but Octane was like a super big game changer just because it was so much faster. Like things that were, you know, would literally take minutes to render were like boom, seconds.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, wow, this opens up a lot of. I wouldn't even try doing it like that because I know it would take fucking forever to render. Now it's just like, oh, it's like nothing. So that was a really big game changer. Honestly, beyond that, like I really like HDRI Link from Grayscale Gorilla. That's a super good one. They've also got a their Gorilla Cam plugin I use a lot. Um, really have any like crazy like, oh man, this, you know, plugin is super nobody knows about. It's like the normal shit everybody knows about, like X particles or you know, stuff like that. So I don't really have anything too zany there. I feel like I use the most like basic simple things. Like I'm not that interested in like bleeding edge sort of like technology improvements because I feel like I need to get better at like color and composition, like easy, simple things that people have been struggling with for hundreds of years. Like those are the things that are going to make a lot more difference in my work. Getting better at that than like some shiny new toy that makes it, you know, 15% faster to do X, Y, Z.
Sure. No, that's also great to hear for people who are starting to do that sort of thing or even just haven't been doing it for that long, that you're using the basic stuff and you've learned just
I
with
mean, I don't know that I would say basic stuff. I mean, in terms of like the whole world, because my
Sure.
computer alone is like thousands of dollars.
That's
But
true.
I would say with the most basic stuff, you can definitely like I do think people get a little like too focused on like the shiny new toys, and it's like, oh, well, I can't do it because I don't have this plugin, or I don't have this software, I don't have
Right.
blah blah blah. But like with like Blender 2, like especially, it's kind of like, okay, well, this shit's fucking free, and like there's a lot of free or cheap tools out there now that are like insanely powerful,
Yeah.
where it's just like, are you fucking, nobody had this 5 years ago, and now you have it for free now. So it's like, there is definitely a lot out there that you can do with pretty little.
Yeah, absolutely. Future Punk asked, "What are your thoughts on the future of NFTs? And what do you think the industry will look like in 1 year from now?"
Again, like, I honestly, you're asking the wrong guy. I've been here 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fair.
that's what I'm trying to figure out from like everybody else who's been here a while. What do they think is what do you think the industry is going to look like in
Oh my
3 years?
gosh. Well, I think it'll look a lot different. It already has so much within this past year, honestly. I mean, I started creating crypto art in 2017, physical artwork, and then
Wait,
NFTs.
what do you mean physical artwork?
So, like paintings, and I got
Oh,
into
okay, and then you were just
augmented.
like digitizing them.
Yeah, and then I got into augmented reality, and I wanted to, and that's how I found NFTs because I wanted to people to scan my paintings or prints, and this sort of animation happened, and I taught myself how to animate, and then I was like, well, what am I gonna do with all these animations? Like, I'm giving them as like updates to people who have my physical artwork hanging in their home, but I also want to find a way that people can own the actual animations. So it worked perfectly with NFTs. Um, and so I started doing that, and from that moment until now, like the space is completely different. And I was just on a stream last night where we were chatting and talking about all the new artists and collectors and everyone coming into the space. And I even said that wasn't even a wave. Like, this is like a little splash. Like, the wave is coming for sure. Especially seeing people like you come into the space recently, and other really huge names. But I mean, NFTs, in my opinion, um, are needed for the metaverse. They give true property rights for digital assets that can't be questioned by some single source. Or, I'm not a big gamer, but these people who play games and they do something wrong, or they tweet something wrong, and they get kicked off platforms, get kicked off games. That can't happen when you have the true metaverse and things on the blockchain. So I think NFTs are, I mean, not even remotely a sliver of how big they'll be pretty soon, and what it means for the virtual world. And I know it sounds weird, but I am super bullish on just the metaverse and the virtual space. I think it's where our future is headed. I think people can be anyone they want to be in there. You can do anything you want to do. You can be a cat. You can be an anime girl. You can have pets. You can have kids. You can seriously do anything. You can work in there. So I think it's just something that is just getting started, and there's so much more to discover and people to create in the space, and NFTs give the opportunity for that, basically. So sorry that
Which
was a
one
little.
of the like platforms are you most sort of like interested in terms of the like metaverse things? Or is
Sure.
there any one that you're more interested in?
So I absolutely love, all the art platforms out there and what they do for folks. I, from the very beginning, have mainly only minted my work on OpenSea, which is not an art platform, at least not solely that.
Yeah.
Really, it's more for, it's like the eBay of NFTs, gaming
Yeah.
assets, virtual land, art, anything. So I've been doing that for a long time, and the reason being, in my opinion, and what I try to help and educate other artists coming to the space, you maintain ownership of your brand by being independent from platforms. So, for example, I mean, I've launched on Nifty Gateway, love Nifty Gateway and all these guys, but for example, if you sell 100 ETH worth of something and you make the top rankings, it's not your name that shows up when you're launching with Nifty Gateway or Super Rare or Maker's Place. it's the platform's name. So you're giving away a bit of your brand
Sure.
in some way. And I've had people who've even found me just through rankings on OpenSea. So you give way less percentage. I think OpenSea fees are 2.5%. So you give a way smaller percentage. You keep your brand. Of course, you have to do more of the marketing for yourself. But coming into the space because of crypto and because of like what I believe that it will do for people and Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of these things, it just made so much sense and ethos around the space to be independent. So I definitely use OpenSea a lot for sure.
Gotcha.
But I collect on all the other art platforms. I think they're amazing. But that's personally where I go.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think, obviously they all kind of have their sort of like plus and minuses. But yeah, I think that'll be interesting too to see how they kind of like evolve, especially because they're evolving so quickly too with like features and stuff. So I think there's, it will be interesting to see what that space looks like in a year or two. And then you throw in the like, Somnium space and crypto voxels and all that. And it's just like those are obviously progressing very fast as well too. So yeah, it's just so much progression so fast.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just seeing if there were any other. I don't know what some of these questions mean. Sorry, guys. What are birds?
Don't read them. Like, don't read them. Those are those friggin' perverts.
No, I just don't know.
Creepy birds. Oh, okay. God. Okay. Clear the chat room. Clear the chat room.
Okay. Let's see. I'll ask this one. This is a cool one. Your laugh is very infectious. I
feel like you're kind of like, do I want to ask him this or not? Not really. Fuck
no, some of these are good. Some of these are good. People want to know people are like, what does your day look like when you're not doing daily renders? Well, he's doing daily renders every day. So,
yeah.
Besides that, I guess you're doing other work and being
That's the thing. My days look normal. Like when I go on vacation, I go on fucking vacation. I just also spend an hour doing this. Like it's not. I feel like people think that it's like, this is my only life. I have nothing else. It wouldn't last if it wasn't like something that you didn't like, weren't precious about, and weren't it like, it's just like, it's something I have to get done today. It's not necessarily something that's, if I really don't want it to take a long time, then it won't take a long time.
Right.
That's the only way, like something like that, I feel like, kind of will last.
Squiggles asked how if you have any tips on coming up with new scenes and environments. They said they know you just kind of sit down and do it, but any tips for someone else trying to do the same thing?
Honestly, my biggest tip is to do it every day. Be like, I'm gonna do 30 days. Don't be like, I'm gonna do this forever, because that's daunting. When I say that out loud, it sounds daunting. But I feel like if you set a small amount of time and be like, I'm just gonna try this for 30 days, I feel like the thing that forces you to, I don't think you have a lack of ideas. You have a lack of deadlines. And when you have more deadlines, it will force ideas out, and most of the ideas will suck. And that's just how it is. And that's everybody is like that. Most of their ideas, every single person, their ideas suck. So, but you're not going to be able to weed out the shitty ideas unless you just kind of get it on paper and be like, yep, that turned out like shit. Okay, we're not going to do that. So I feel like, the easiest way to like come up with ideas and get out ideas is to have a deadline. And so that's why I strongly recommend people struggling with writer's block or something like that. You'll get something out, it'll suck, you'll move on, and like you'll be able to sort of, push through the next thing. But I feel like the only way, if you're struggling with something like that, is to work your way out of it.
Yeah, no, that's a great recommendation. The interesting question came in. Delay Filinto. Sorry, I can't say your name. Have you ever gotten into trouble because of your lack of boundaries in your creations, for being political or not safe for work?
No, not really. I mean, I'm not. What trouble would I get in? I guess I'm not. I feel like at this point, I mean, I don't have a job, so not safe for work thing. It's like, well, this is my work, so it seems pretty safe for where I am. And otherwise, I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know what would happen to me. Like, I feel like that's what people are like, Kim Jong-un's gonna kill you. Kim Jong-un doesn't give a fuck when I'm fucking drawing some poopy whatever. Like, he doesn't care. People be like, Donald Trump's probably so pissed. Really? I'm pretty sure Donald Trump has bigger fish to fry than Beeple.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like, nobody gives a shit. The people I'm going after with this shit are like 1,000 times but they don't give a fuck. I'm a fucking fly on their fucking shirt. Get this fucker on. Nobody cares. So, like, I don't, besides people getting all butthurt in my DMs, which is like, whatever, you can say whatever you want to me. Like, it doesn't, nothing's gonna, like, you gotta show up to my house with a gun. You show up to my house with a gun, then we'll talk.
Yeah, let's not do that. But
well, I'd prefer if you not do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way it's gonna get real. So
yeah, no, good point. By the way, someone in the chat, Bananakin Jones, said people inspired me to do every days with a midnight deadline. He's on day 322. So congrats.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's fucking dope.
Almost a full year. And I've had a stream with, was it Paradism that I think said this? That you also inspired him to do every day. So he started doing it, and that's what gave him like the huge, pickup in his confidence with his art. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, I'll ask one more question, and then I'm gonna do some of my rapid fire questions with you at the end.
Okay.
People. They're not even rapid fire. People take a long time to answer them, so you can take a long time too.
I've had people say that before. Rapid fire, and like a question, or it's like, "What's your biggest, defeat or your biggest?" It's like, how is that rapid fire?
Yeah.
How am I gonna rapid fire that?
Exactly. So I guess they're not even rapid fire. All right, so let's see. Any good last questions? Let me see. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll ask actually two because they're kind of short. Number one, what artists would you most like to see making NFTs? So you could just pick maybe top one or two, and then have you tried VR?
Yeah, I definitely tried VR. What artists? I don't know. To be honest, I feel like it's not so much about the artist. It's more like what they could do different in the space. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of like, to me, there's nothing, unless you're sort of like looking at this token differently, than just like how you would normally release something, then it's like, well, what's the difference? Like, somebody just, okay, well, no, I just tokenized this thing that already existed, whatever. It's like,
yeah.
To me, that's not that interesting. Like, it's more like, what is like an interesting new thing? So I don't know that I'm necessarily super interested for any one person to come into the scene. I'm interested in for whoever to come into the scene. It was somebody I've never heard of, to come in and do something different and do something that's like unlocks, an idea that it's like I never had. Like the whole idea for the piece changing based on the election. Yeah. That was from the guy, Matt Cain or whatever, with his like was it Matt Cain or Robert S? I can't remember.
Christie's was Robert. Matt Cain was on async with the Bitcoin changes based on Bitcoin volatility.
Oh, okay, that's what I was saying. But like that these things could change. Like, yeah. I didn't know that. So I was like, oh wait, these things can like oh, yeah. A token that could change. Mm-hmm. And so like that's what inspired the like, well, what if we did something that changed based on the election? So I think like, new ideas coming from anywhere to me is what I'm, sort of most excited about. In terms of VR, yeah, I haven't been super, like I don't think I've necessarily found that like killer app for me. Like every time I go on VR, it's always like fun and interesting, but I feel like I haven't quite found that sort of like thing that, gets me using it like super, super regularly.
Okay.
Although I will say I am very excited about that Somnium space. I feel like they're doing some very interesting, fun things there, and I'm excited to see, how that progresses.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right. That is awesome. So I'm gonna ask you some of these questions that I asked at the end, which are just kind of fun
Okay.
and random.
I'm scared.
Oh, they're
I'm
not. They're
scared.
not scary. A skill that you wish you had.
Cooking. I don't. No,
All right.
it's,
Oh, these. Yeah, these
it's
are
not really actually. It's not really actually cooking. I don't
too.
know. Being better at art.
Oh, come on.
That is what I wish.
All right. All right. Then I'll let you have it if that's an honest answer.
That is an honest answer.
Your favorite animal.
Sloth.
Oh, interesting. I feel like has someone else said that too with favorite animal is a sloth. Your favorite place on Earth, near or far?
It's a good question. I guess here right now. I don't know. It's pretty good right here. I never really thought about favorite place.
Well, I
Here,
guess
I
that's
guess
good
I'm
that
gonna
that's
say
your
my home.
that's good. It's your favorite, especially for lockdown and all
Yeah,
that.
no
You
shit.
can be stuck
No
in your
shit.
favorite place. If you only had to watch one movie for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Back to the Future 2.
Oh, wow, that was the fastest answer yet. Um, what was cool when you were young but is not cool now?
Uh, I mean, I'm 39, so I feel like a lot of the things that I were cool when I was young went not cool and now are cool again. So I don't even know. I don't,
Okay.
maybe some of those jeans that people wore in the 80s are still not cool yet, or certain hairstyles maybe are still pretty. Although
Ne-
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the right person.
Next thing you know, Louis Vuitton's gonna be making those jeans and asking you to put your art on the back pockets. Who knows? By the way, someone did compliment your haircut earlier in the chat, just to let you know. Your compliment of the day. Um, would you want to live forever?
No.
In
I
health.
feel like
In health.
if you were living forever, like you're kind of trapped. Like you can't die. Sounds terrible.
Okay, so what is that show I watched? Upload or something? If you had the opportunity to like jump in this vortex that basically was committing suicide, would you do that? If you could live forever but have the option to kill yourself?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, definitely that changes it.
Yeah, I know it
'Cause
does.
then you
That's kind
can
of a
fucking
cheat.
that does change it. Because if you have to live forever, then it's just like everything's kind of meaningless, and it's like, oh, I'm never gonna die. Who gives a shit? But if you can die, even if you could die from accidents, but you would just otherwise live, I feel like it changes it.
All right. Yeah, I know that was the complete. Like, I asked a question and then you answer, and then I'm like, well, what if the question was the exact opposite? What about that?
What if you died today?
Um, oh gosh. Um, no more everydays. Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Ooh, that's a good question. I personally am, I guess I would say I'm definitely more interested in, and again, I'm very new to all this stuff. I would say I'm more interested in Ethereum just because it seems like there's more like possibilities of stuff to build on top of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously these NFTs are largely built on Ethereum. That to me is more interesting than like Bitcoin is more, like digital gold. Like it doesn't seem like, and I'm sure people are gonna be like, what about this project? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know these things, so don't quote me here. But it just seems like there's more development around Ethereum versus Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Fun fact for those of you, the first NFT was on Bitcoin, colored coins, but that was like,
Oh, that was the first NFT.
I think that was back in 20, I think, I'm not going to say the year because I'm probably wrong, maybe 2016 colored coins came out. But yeah, no, Ethereum is meant to be built on top of with all of these crazy smart contracts and all of that. Like Bitcoin is not meant for that. They have a lot of these um, process and code, and I won't pretend that I'm technical and know all the exact reasons, but that you can't write on top of it, but it's also for security purposes, and it's not meant for that sort of thing. So that's totally fair. Okay, and then last two questions, and these might be a little bit harder since you have been in the NFT space not that long, but if you could have one NFT that you wanted for free, any one, which would it be?
Any of the existing NFT?
Yeah.
I mean, probably, I guess, art NFT, I'd probably take that Trevor Jones bull. I feel like that probably would be a good one. In terms of all NFTs, though, I'd probably take that Crypto Kitty.
Yeah, the Genesis.
That #1 Crypto Kitty.
That, yeah.
Although I haven't really read it. That's one thing I haven't really read that much about, that like Crypto Kitty thing, right? I don't really know what that is that much.
Yeah, CryptoKitties is cool because it was the like sort of start of the big hype about NFTs on Ethereum. And that's actually how a lot of people in the space got introduced to NFTs, was through this like weird game where you're breeding cats, and that was like,
yeah, I like that.
It was fun
because it's so dumb.
So dumb. So dumb.
It's so dumb that it's actually fucking genius.
Oh yeah, like we in my house when we called it, we called it like the crypto castle, because like we were all like 3 of us were working in crypto, and it was like 6 of us were living there.
That is very dark.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But we would like literally, when CryptoKitties first came out, I was like, oh, like I don't have enough ETH to like buy more cats. Will you send me your cats and I'll breed them, and then I'll send you the kids back so you can breed them with your cats. So we were like literally like messaging each other, like sending each other cats.
Wait, so if you have cats, then they can breed with the other cats and make cats?
Yeah, so we would breed all of our cats to make babies, and then you could sell them on the secondary market, right?
And does it take like time?
Yeah. So it takes time. There's like cooldown, like there's all these different like, and if you breed them too much, it takes way longer.
And is that all done through the site?
Yeah, so
again, like that's very interesting.
This was like when they first came out though. So this was like, there's definitely not as much activity as there used to be, and now it's more of like there are these different races where you can get fancy cats, which are pretty cool. I did a big puzzle with a ton of companies and games within the space and artists, and I worked with CryptoKitties to make a custom kitty that went with my painting that I did, and so it was part of this huge puzzle to unlock a big prize. So it was fun, and it's become more of like, it's definitely more of a collector sort of thing than like the real game aspect now. But yeah, Genesis Kitty would be pretty epic to own for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I'd take.
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, this was so cool. I'm so glad I got to know you a little bit more, and
yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to talk. It's definitely super fun.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to everyone who was in the chat just asking all these questions. I think I answered asked most of your questions, so if I missed you, sorry. Come to the next one. I have another stream tonight with Micah Johnson, which will be cool because I think he is close to setting another record for highest sale, and we're going to be streaming during the last hour of the auction.
Oh yeah, that's the guy. Is that the guy who did that astronaut?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll be doing the last hour of the auction tonight.
Oh, nice.
So check that out. And thank you so much for coming on, Mike. This was
huge.
Thank
you for having me. I'm sure hopefully we'll talk again soon here and we'll be able to like actually meet up at once fucking Corona time is over. Conference or something would be sweet.
Definitely. There's a couple of really cool NFT conferences. One
I'm
in
looking
New York
forward
that's
to that.
My favorite.
Which one?
The one in New York. It's NFT NYC. That's a really fun one. So that would be epic to meet everyone there. They're always pretty small, but who knows? This year maybe it'll be a lot bigger. We'll see.
I feel like everybody, and that was one thing that I did a lot with, was like traveling and like talking at conferences and stuff like before this, like art conferences, obviously not crypto stuff, but I feel like that, you know, is such a good way to like get out and meet people and like learn about a space. So yeah, I'm super excited for when we get the training wheels off here and can be humans again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sweet. Well, we will catch up again soon, and thank you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Awesome.
See ya.
Thank you guys. Have a good one. Peace.